Hi everyone, my name is Ellis. Today I'm going to be looking at how wealth and poverty caused major friction in the early church. While we often think of the early church as perfectly unified, the city of Corinth was a difficult place to build community. I'll be using the social history approach of scholars like Wayne Meeks and Gerd Thyssen to see how new money and social status almost tore this church apart. This presentation will look at the tensions that divided the Corinth church. I will examine how conflict between the wealthy haves and the poor have-nots shaped Paul's instructions on lawsuits, communal meals, and spiritual unity. To understand the church, you have to understand the city. Corinth was a Roman boomtown. It was destroyed and then rebuilt as a colony, which meant it didn't have an old established form of government or social structure. Instead, it was a place of hustle and profit. As scholar David Garland notes, status was earned through commercial success. If you worked hard and made a profit, you were expected to show it off to gain power. This created a me-first competitive culture that the Corinthians believed brought right into the church with them. Corinth was destroyed in 146 BC and rebuilt in Rome in about 44 BC. Because of this new status, it wasn't about your family tree, it was about hustle and profit. In Corinth, if you had money, you were expected to show it off to gain power. This created that culture of constant competition for the best seat and the most honor. So, who was in this church? It was a massive social mix. Paul says in chapter 1, verse 26, that not many were of noble birth, meaning the majority were slaves and manual laborers. However, as Meeks points out, there was a small minority of wealthy members who hosted the meetings. This created status inconsistency. You had rich homeowners and poor laborers trying to be one family, but the social gap between them was a constant source of tension. 1 Corinthians 1:26. Brothers and sisters, consider your calling. Not many were wise from a human perspective. Not many were powerful. Not many of noble birth. So you have the minority, those who have, the wealthy individuals who owned large houses and could host the church. They were expected to be treated as social leaders. You have the have-nots, which was the majority, slaves, manual laborers. They had little money and almost zero social status in the city. Instead, brother goes to court against brother, and that before unbelievers. As it is to have legal disputes against one another is already a defeat for you. Why not rather be wronged? Why not rather be cheated? Instead, you yourselves do wrong and cheat, and you do this to brothers and sisters. We see this tension explode in chapter 6 with lawsuits. Wealthy members are taking poorer brothers to secular Roman courts. Scholar Winter explains that in Corinth, a lawsuit wasn't just about money, it was a weapon. The witch used the legal system to publicly shame those below them. Paul's response is radical for the city of hustlers. He tells the rich it is actually better to be cheated or wronged, like it says in that verse, than to use your social status, to use your social power to crush a fellow believer. Paul was saying it's better for you to be wronged and cheated than to hurt one another, to hurt a brother and a sister in the court of law. This next section takes place in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 17 through 34. I'm just going to read verse 22. It says, "Don't you have homes in which to eat and drink, or you despise the church of God and humiliate those who have nothing? What should I say to you? Should I praise you? I do not praise you in this matter." The biggest conflict happened at the Lord's Supper. Scholar explains that the wealthy hosts would eat a private, high-quality meal in the dining room, while the poor members who arrived late from work were left in the courtyard with nothing. Paul tells those people in chapter 11 that isn't worship. It's a humiliation of the poor. He argues that if the meal isn't shared equally, it isn't the Lord's Supper at all. Paul says, "Do you despise the church of God by humiliating those who have nothing?" Showing this social class of these rich people, these people of high status, are despising these poor people by humiliating them when they have nothing. This last slide here is just my sources, but thank you guys for listening.